In Search of Great Stories presents
D-R-A-M-A drama.
Spoil the hell out of this movie.
What happened to the tow truck, Winston?
There's a lot of meta here. Let's get to watching great movies.
Welcome to movielover22.
Hold on, I can't find my lighter. Hold on. I'm lighting my Christmas candle because it's October, and I do what I want. All right, we're doing the thing. Yo, what's up? Welcome to movielover22, the show that will make you question why you saw Rogue One in theaters 3 times. It's your host, Soupy. Also, it was me. I saw Rogue One 3 times. I don't know why. Today, we're talking about Superman 2025. We're going to do some spoilers too, obviously, so go watch the movie and then come back. First, I want to respond to some messages. That's right, it's been 4 years, and I have messages. Shmei says, hey, thanks for answering my question and overall giving such curated answers. Great pod, as always. Thank you, Shmei. I'm grateful you listened and that you asked me a question for Soup Lore. Thank you. Thank you. And send me more messages. They're fun to read. I never thought I'd be talking about Superman, even in regular conversation, let alone an entire episode about him. I don't give a shit about Superman. And yet, 2025 has been an interesting year for movies. It's the first year in many years that I looked forward to what was coming out and actually wrote out what I wanted to see in theaters. In recent memory, few movies have made me excited enough to buy a movie ticket. And not just because the country shut down so we didn't leave the house. I was excited for Mission Impossible, 28 Years Later, Friendship, even Thunderbolts, but I've never cared for Superman. I was only interested in Superman because I was curious what James Gunn would do with a property that meant nothing to me, since I enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, and one of my dearest friends adores Superman, so I put it on my list. Where Mission Impossible and Sinners and 28 Years Later and Friendship were mostly just pretty good, except 28 Years Later, good lord, that sucked. Imagine my own surprise when Superman brought tears to my eyes. It moved me so much as I sat in the auditorium. And I have to be upfront, this is not a perfect movie. The dialogue is schlocky and awkward to sit through more than a few times. The exposition is all but written on the wall, but damn it, I loved it. This movie shines so well, and I think the obvious reasons are the budget and the theme. This movie cost $250 million to make, and it actually looks like it. We have dozens of examples of insanely high budget movies looking like shit for no reason. This one looks fantastic. I didn't notice any weird shots or obvious green screen until my 3rd viewing at home. And the shot lasted for only a second. For the themes, it's obviously hope and goodness. I remember seeing Batman v Superman in theaters and wondering why Superman clarifies the S on his chest symbolizes hope, since that movie couldn't be more devoid of hope. At best, BVS mostly features Batman drowning and grasping at straws at the concept of hope at the end. That's not what makes me excited. BVS didn't set up a fun Batman or Superman experience for me. It just exists as a drab excuse to pretend Batman would kill people. At this point, I should note I've never read a single Marvel or DC comic, and even I know Batman doesn't kill people. As for goodness, Superman is nearly overwhelmingly good in this movie. If not for a few utterances of shit, this is an incredibly wholesome movie. You could almost comfortably show this to children, like you would show Star Wars to kids. And Superman's identity is entirely enraptured in being good, by doing good. He saves dogs and squirrels and little girls and fights for the weak and oppressed because he can, and therefore he does. He believes his parents' last wish for him was that he should use his power to the utmost symbol of hope to humans, before it all went to shit. One of the inciting incidents in this movie is the reveal that the full message from Superman's parents was for him to conquer and rule Earth. that humans are inferior pieces of shit and should be ruled by a greater being, which rocks Superman's world. And then Pa Kent rolls him back down to his roots on the farm, and Superman decides that he alone can choose what kind of person he is, not his parents, and he chooses to do good. Superman is a protector. He speaks up for those who can't be heard or won't be heard. He goes out of his way to keep Metropolis safe and laments that the Justice Gang is messy with their takedown of the kaiju. Zack Snyder's Superman sought solitude, gazed upon a humanity that's all but forgotten hope, and feels as if he himself would despair if he didn't have Lois Lane. James Gunn's Superman would feel sad, but in a Spider-Man-esque way would still fight. This Superman sees humanity and sees beauty. And as someone who's grown more cynical in recent years, this movie spoke to me on a deep level there. Even when Clark is angry after Krypto is kidnapped, he takes a day for himself to despair, but he's not wallowing. He's processing the grief and missing his companion and figuring out what to do next. When Lois visits him and they discuss where they're both at after their argument 1 or 2 days before, he's already resolved to do the next right thing. A selfless act of surrender for the betterment of the dog. He was going to search for Krypto regardless of his standing with Lois. And as a side note, as I'm saying the word crypto over and over again, it's nice to have the word crypto in a positive, non-scammy context. And also, side note, Superman's apartment looks sick as hell. What kind of money is he making that Lois isn't? Also, this episode is sponsored by bed frames that have legs. The support you need while you sleep. Be thankful they don't have knees. Back to the episode. I also want to praise James Gunn's version of Lois Lane because she's actually likable. One thing about BVS that I couldn't fucking stand is Amy Adams as Lois Lane. She was one of the worst things about that movie. This Lois has so much character. She's fun and conflicted and convicted and isn't annoying as shit. She's persistent in a way you actually admire and you want to see where she's going with it. Zack Snyder's Lois feels self-important and you just want her to go away. All that to say, goodness is everywhere in this movie. If Superman is on screen, you're never afraid for his mettle. That is his spirit, his determination. Like I said, this is not a perfect movie. If there's one thing literally everyone knows about Superman, is that he's basically invincible and cannot lose a battle unless he's totally unwilling to critically harm his opponent, which is why the Batman v Superman debate exists at all. Of course, Superman would kick Batman's ass, but Superman is so good that he wouldn't kill Batman and would allow himself to be hurt. So here's my issue with Superman 2025. The biggest missed opportunity is the opening sequence. We open with text exposition about metahumans being introduced to Earth, blah, blah, blah. Good taste of world building and all that. But then it says, 3 hours ago, a metahuman called the Hammer of Bravia attacked Superman in the city of Metropolis. 3 minutes ago, Superman lost a battle for the first time. James Gunn intentionally wrote that Superman lost a fight for the first time ever after being Superman for like 3 years, I think. Something like that. And refused to let us experience that and what that would do to Superman's character and sense of self. He doesn't remotely process this in the movie. How fascinating would it have been to see Superman show up to save the day, only to have his ass handed to him, and maybe have Superman panic a bit to figure out how to get ahead. But no, we're shown Superman turning into a meteor and landing outside the Fortress of Solitude to heal. That's something that does bug me about the movie. What a golden opportunity to show us a lot of character and conflict for Superman, and we're never given it. It's never even brought up again. I also enjoyed the supporting characters here. Guy Gardner is great. Nathan Fillion is so good at playing a dick that you don't mind that he's on screen. You kind of want to see what he's going to do next. His attitude is fun to watch, too. Like, when he's talking to Lois and gives away Superman's identity like he's Michael Scott. Mr. Terrific plays so well the nerd type that the movie plainly shows us that you're not supposed to underestimate the smart one. Jimmy Olsen is fun, and I think my favorite thing about him is that he's oblivious to the hot women that are obsessed with him. Lois even calls Eve his hot girlfriend, and his reaction isn't to anything else except the word hot. Like, he's never even considered the possibility that she's hot. And then, Lex is great. He's charismatic, bold, angry, and properly villainous. We haven't had a purely disgusting bad guy in a movie like this in a while. Most movies are all about making the bad guys relatable. Shit. My last novel, Liam and I worked hard at making the villains kind of likable. I have to mention, as well, Sean Gunn's cameo. The one thing liberals and conservatives can finally agree on is that Lex Luthor sucks. Is such a tremendous line that everyone needs to love this line. They really did. They really do. Man, this movie it did something to me, man. I went by myself and I loved it. I saw it twice in theaters. I just finished watching it a third time at home. I watched it all the way through the end of the credits. I want to see Superman realize the Kents were his real parents, the ones who raised him to be Clark. To say shit like, kindness is the real punk rock, and yes, I know that's not the literal line, but I'm paraphrasing. It's my fucking show. People were very polarized on this one. Just in the 1 week before I got to the theaters, people were losing their minds. I heard very little about how good it was. It seemed people didn't quite know how to put it into words, except that they had a good time. But the people who hated it, they were very loud. All I saw and heard were claims of it being overwhelming, a movie whose sole purpose was beating you over the head with the message that immigrants are good and that it was a huge allegory for the Israel-Palestine conflict. And the thing, here's the thing. Who fucking cares? Like, sure, it's definitely there. You can personally decide, though, that it's a movie talking only about fictional countries and leave all subtext behind. Or you could understand that art reflects reality even on a smaller scale and just live with it. If you write, you put yourself into the story somewhere. You write what's going on in your world into what you're working on. That's how that works. That's how art gets made. And if you let a political idea ruin how much you are able to enjoy a movie, you have other things going on, my friend. It's a movie. You're allowed to enjoy something you disagree with or something that makes you uncomfortable. You're allowed to not like 100% of what a movie is. I just talked about how much I fucking love this movie, and I don't love the dialogue a lot of the time because there's a fair amount of just straight up exposition. That's a negative. But the rest of it is just so overwhelmingly positive. My point is, I keep hearing people say that the Moravia-Jarhanpur conflict being an allegory was too much, and they didn't want to watch a movie about a conflict they knew about in real life, especially when they're pro-Israel and yada yada yada. It ruined the rest of the movie for them. And I'm here to tell you, this movie fucking rules anyway. Let the allegory play. Not only does it fit, but it makes the movie better for Superman's involvement in saving people because they're people. Setting the politics aside, especially because in the movie, politics aren't even involved in the fucking conflict. Lex Luthor states he made it all up to get closer to Superman. Easy peasy, enjoy your fucking movie. One piece of critique I've seen for those of us who adore this movie is when YMS was talking about why we love it. He himself liked the movie, especially considering it's a superhero movie, and he noted that people are praising Superman as some great accomplishment, when the fact of the matter is that superhero movies haven't been up to snuff in years. So Superman being as good as it is isn't necessarily that big of an accomplishment. Rather, the quality that Superman 2025 brings should be the bare minimum. This should be a regulation superhero movie among many solid entries. But because of the lower quality of its peers, it stands above the rest by default. This movie is just so good anyway. It's actually my favorite movie I've seen all year. I've enjoyed others, sure, but my other favorites are older movies I happened to see for the first time this year, like Michael Mann's Heat and Jacob's Ladder, for those wondering. And Superman is just so far above the rest in a magical way. In a world of how dark can we make this movie, from The Dark Knight and Zack Snyder, whatever verse thing, DC taking a big step forward with James Gunn as a filmmaker, might as well call him James Fun. Superman is just delightful. I even love the Daily Planet stuff. Lois and Steve ragging on Clark for being a shitty writer is so fun. The back and forth is cute, and I'm here for it. I could watch a show about the Daily Planet crew just doing shit together. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's a cartoon on HBO. Superman is a constant reminder of what it is to do good. That other people don't get to dictate your life. You set your own expectations of yourself and to look out for others, and that is the real motherfucking punk rock. For a more comic book knowledge review of this great movie, honestly, go listen to the DCAU review guys talk about Superman. Liam and Cal have a great back and forth on it. I would have asked Liam to come and talk about this on this episode, but we've already talked about it a lot, and I didn't want to have a 4-hour long episode. And you really should just go listen to their own episode. I tackled this episode with just what I loved about it from my non-comic perspective, just as a movie. Their review is much more thorough. He's a good man and thorough. With the lore and background of Superman, and has the fleshed out character that they both have grown up exploring. And finally, just at the end, I want to bring up the release of my short story compilation before it's too late. The 4 of you that listen to the show may know that I'm a writer in my spare time, on top of doing podcasts in my spare time, on top of playing video games in my spare time, on top of doing other shit in my spare time. Anyway, so I wrote a bunch of short stories. I don't have an exact release date, but I will be announcing it officially on my Instagram, SuperQuest. That's SOUPER Quest. One word. As it will not only be available on Amazon, but in select bookstores. It's pretty cool. It's about criminals and haunted playhouses and superheroes, and it's just fun stuff. You can follow me on Letterboxd under the name Movie Lover Show, and you can send me any messages. Someone's driving away. You can send me any messages to movielovershow@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at SuperQuest, SOUPER Quest. Feel free to leave the show a review. And tune in next time when I talk about The Wire.